A Lancaster mother of three is found dead, and tonight sheriff's detectives say a chilling video ties her husband to her murder. Fox 11's Laura Diaz tonight in Lancaster with more.
Now on to the latest on a Lancaster mother of three murdered, allegedly by her husband, who fled to Peru. Fox 11 has learned investigators now have an idea of where he is located.
The doorbell camera captured everything. A man dragging something heavy wrapped in fabric across the pavement at 4 a.m., struggling with the weight as he pulled it toward his car. Inside that bundle was his wife. Sheylla Cabrera arrived in the United States from Peru with a dream that millions of immigrants share, to build a better life for her family. At 33 years old, she had become exactly what she hoped to be, a loving mother to three young sons, ages 9, 6, and 4, living in Lancaster, California. Those who knew her described her as an unconditional friend, a loving mother, and a hard worker. Sheylla's friends in Lancaster saw her as someone who radiated warmth despite carrying burdens that would have crushed others. She worked tirelessly to provide for her three boys, maintaining the kind of positive energy that drew people to her. In her small apartment on Lancaster Boulevard, she created a home filled with love for her children. But there was something Sheylla kept hidden beneath that bright smile, something dark that only those closest to her knew about. Her husband, 36-year-old Josemar Cabrera Corno, was not the man he appeared to be to the outside world. Behind closed doors, their marriage was anything but the happy family portrait it seemed. According to Sheylla's mother, Helga Rosilo, who remained in Peru, her daughter had reported Josemar for domestic violence back in their home country. The abuse had followed them across borders and oceans. It wasn't just Sheylla who suffered. Rochillo stated, "She told me that he hit her, mistreated her, and even slapped my youngest grandchild, who is just 3 years old." For years, Sheylla endured physical and verbal abuse, trapped in a relationship that grew more dangerous with each passing day. Her friends watched helplessly as she struggled with an impossible decision: stay and endure the violence, or leave and risk losing her children to a man who repeatedly threatened to take them away from her if she tried to escape. Elizabeth Rousso, one of Sheylla's friends, explained the terrible bind Sheylla found herself in. She said she was just too scared because he would always threaten to leave with the kids. So, I think that was her fear. If she did anything, he was going to kidnap the kids. Those threats had kept Sheylla trapped for years. But by the summer of 2025, something inside her had shifted. The years of abuse had worn away her hope that things would somehow improve, and staying had become more dangerous than leaving. By early August 2025, Sheylla had reached her breaking point. Friends revealed that Sheylla was in an abusive relationship and had asked her husband for a divorce. This wasn't a decision she made lightly. She understood the danger that came with leaving an abusive partner, but staying had become impossible. On August 9th, Sheylla spoke with her parents in Peru and told them of her plans to leave Josemar and take their three young children with her. It was a conversation filled with both determination and fear. She knew she needed to protect herself and her boys. Sheylla's mother says that the last time they spoke, her daughter told her she would be filing a report against Josemar in Lancaster. That conversation would be the last time she would ever hear her daughter's voice. In the apartment on Lancaster Boulevard, tension filled every room. Josemar knew what was coming. His wife, the woman he had controlled through fear and violence for so long, was planning to leave him. The mask of control he had worn for years was slipping, and beneath it lay something far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. Another friend tearfully recalled during a vigil, "This is really hard for me right now because we try to get her out." The community had seen the warning signs. They had tried to help, but domestic violence cases are notoriously difficult to escape, especially when children are involved and the abuser makes credible threats. What Sheylla didn't realize was that Josemar had no intention of letting her go. In his mind, if he couldn't control her anymore, then no one would have her. August 9th was the last day Sheylla Cabrera was seen alive. Inside the Lancaster apartment on August 10th, the unthinkable happened. The exact details of the murder remain sealed in court documents, but what investigators pieced together paints a picture of calculated violence. Prosecutors allege that Josemar killed Sheylla on August 10th at the Lancaster apartment where they and their 3 children lived. Special circumstances filed by the district attorney's office allege that a knife was used in the killing. This wasn't a crime of passion or a momentary loss of control. This was deliberate. This was final. Somewhere in that apartment were 3 young boys, unaware that their mother was being murdered by their father. 3 innocent children who would have their childhood shattered, their mother stolen from them in an act of unthinkable cruelty. After killing Sheylla, Josimar had to hide what he had done. He wrapped her body carefully in a large piece of material, fabric that would later match exactly what investigators found in surveillance footage. He moved methodically, a man operating on autopilot and dark purpose rather than panic. This was a man who had already decided on his next steps, who had a plan for disposal and escape. In the early morning darkness of August 10th, hours after the murder, Josimar began the process of covering up his crime. A neighbor, Doorbell Marrera, returning home from a night shift around 2:40 a.m., witnessed something that would later prove crucial. She spotted Josimar cleaning out the trunk of the family's car in the middle of the night. "It was strange," she told reporters. "I work those days, and I know there's nobody around at that time, and cleaning a trunk. I thought it was scary." What happened next was captured on camera. Surveillance footage from a neighbor's Ring doorbell camera, timestamped around 4 a.m., showed a figure struggling with a heavy, wrapped bundle. The footage showed a man dragging something that clearly contained significant weight, pulling it across the ground with obvious effort. What the camera captured was Sheylla Cabrera dragging his wife's body from their apartment. He loaded Sheylla into the trunk of the family car and drove her to the Angeles National Forest. When he found a suitable location, he pulled Sheylla's body from the trunk and threw her over the side of an embankment. He then returned home to his 3 sons and began constructing the lies that would buy him time to escape. The investigation and the fugitive. 2 days later, on August 12th, concerned friends reported Sheylla missing. When authorities began asking questions, Josimar's stories started to unravel. He gave varying accounts of his wife's whereabouts, first claiming she had been abducted by Immigration and Customs Enforcement, then that she left with another man, and finally, that she'd suffered an accident. The inconsistencies were glaring. On August 13th, detectives discovered the neighbor's Ring camera footage. The damning video instantly transformed the investigation from a missing person case to a homicide investigation. Investigators soon learned something else deeply concerning. Josimar and the couple's 3 young children were also missing, believed to have fled to Peru. On Saturday morning, August 16th, a search and rescue team spotted an object similar to the material from the surveillance footage over an embankment in the Angeles National Forest. Homicide detectives rushed to the scene. The material contained the body of Sheylla Cabrera. News of Sheylla's death spread quickly. On the same day her body was found, investigators learned that the 3 Cabrera children had been located safe in Peru and taken into protective custody. Meanwhile, Josimar was a fugitive. Lieutenant Michael Medica told the New York Times that Josimar was detained in both Mexico and Peru after entering the countries by land, but was released each time because he had not yet been formally charged with a crime. On Thursday, August 21st, Josimar Cabrera Corno was charged with 1 count of murder with allegations of using a knife. An extradition arrest warrant and an Interpol red notice were issued. The walls were closing in. On August 27th, 2025, he turned himself into the Interpol headquarters in Lima, Peru. Peru's National Police Force announced the surrender with a video showing him handcuffed. Local authorities are now in the process of extraditing him back to California to stand trial, where he faces a possible maximum sentence of 26 years to life in prison.